Hello and welcome back to the No Higher Calling podcast. This is your host, Brettnay Brazel. You are in for a special treat today because I have a fabulous interview with my friend, Sarah Boots from Faithful and Flourishing. You're actually in for a treat all throughout the rest of the year because Sarah will be joining me the first Monday of every month for a tea time chat with Sarah and Brettnay. We are going to talk about all kinds of topics that I think are really going to be an encouragement to you, a help to you, and hopefully even sometimes a challenge to you. So in today's topic, we cover the idea of living a life that you love, which is something that the Lord has specifically worked on in my life and in Sarah's life. The question is asked, what is the chief end of man? Well, man's chief end is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. We glorify a God who is good, who is truth, who is righteous, who is holy, who loves us with an everlasting love. And we get to enjoy him forever. This just doesn't start when we die and begin our eternity with him in heaven. He wants us to enjoy him now. He truly wants us to live a life that we love as we enjoy our Savior. So, what does that look like? How do you live a life that you love? Well, join Sarah and I as we talk about this conversation, and we pray that you will be blessed and encouraged by it. Well, Sarah, it is always a delight to talk with you, but I'm really excited to talk about really a conversation that has been so impactful in both of our lives. But before we jump into that, I wanted to ask you a fun question. I want to know, what is one thing that you are enjoying in your life right now, or something that is bringing you joy?
Yes. Man, when you first asked that question earlier and said, hey, I want you to think about this, I thought, oh my goodness, there are so many things. This is going to be such a hard question. But if we're going to talk about right now, like just in the last couple of weeks, I will say what has brought me so much joy is having my almost teenage daughter finally blossom into everything that we are hoping that she will blossom into, because man, it's just such a joy to see them take the responsibility. And we had company over the weekend, and you know how it is, life is crazy, and it's just so nice. They just having her take care of things without being told, and coming to me and be like, Mom, what else needs to be done? And it's just, it's such a blessing. And I tell her that, I'm like, you are such a blessing. Thank you so much. You are huge. I could not do this without you. It's just, that has really, really been huge for me, because as we talked about before in the past, we struggled, and I wish I could hear when I was 26, 27, 28, wish I could hear me saying these words now, because back then I was like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? So the fact of the matter is, you just be faithful. So, and obviously we have a long way to go, but it's such a blessing and brings so much joy. What does the Bible say, that verse in Proverbs where it talks about your children being a delight and a rest, when you a rest to your soul, when you discipline them and train them well. And obviously it's only by the grace of God. We are very flawed when it comes to that, but it is a blessing to finally see some reaping from those years.
Getting that fruit.
Anyways, so how about you? What's bringing you joy?
Oh, goodness. Well, I feel like in comparison to that, mine isn't near as great. But one thing that I thought of, I am currently really doing a deep dive into Charlotte Mason and her approach to education through some books that Karen Andriola sent me, which I know you're a Charlotte Mason mama. And so it has just been really refreshing and enjoyable to I mean, I was familiar with it, and I would even say that we kind of somewhat are a Charlotte Mason homeschool. But
Mhm.
to really get to know things more detailed, kind of the nitty-gritty, and just see the beauty that learning can be. We
Yes.
both have education backgrounds, and I think we both started in a very different place than where we are currently
Yep.
as homeschool moms. Um, but just seeing the potential of what learning can look like, not just for the child, but for the mother. I really have loved that emphasis too, that I should be a lifelong learner and different ways to encourage that in my life. And then as I encourage my children, that has just been so, just such a blessing to me as I've really been. We're preparing for another school year. So our school year starts at the end of January. So I'm doing all of my like encouragement, refreshing, planning. And so it's been a really timely read, but that has just brought me so much joy as I have just really kind of thrown myself into those writings.
Yes, that I would have to add that that also brings me joy as well. That would be another
I mean, I
thing
think
to
this
add.
could be a whole two-time chat, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes. I
Yes,
love it. I love Charlotte Mason, and I love how it's changed me as a teacher and a mother. Um,
absolutely.
but yes, so rich, so rich.
Yes. Well, Sarah, we're here to chat about living a life that you love. And this has been something you've talked about it to your audience. I've talked about it to my audience. I think the Lord has really done a huge work in our own lives
Mhm.
in regards to this. But I really thought it'd be fun for you and I to chat. You know, everybody has a different life, it has a different makeup. We have different rhythms and schedules and all those things. But I really feel like at the foundation, you and I think alike in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Um, we serve the same Lord, and that has given us just really direction in our lives, even though they're different paths. It really has given us kind of that trajectory to follow. And in our conversations, in our friendship, and different things, I feel like this has come up a lot, living a life that you love. And I don't know that it was always that way for me. And I think for a lot of people, we get on that hamster wheel, that what do they call it? The
Right.
rat race of just the same thing over and over. And you can really lose kind of your purpose. But the Lord has really worked in, just speaking for me, my life over the past few years. I think maybe COVID was kind of one of those things that hit a
Mhm.
reset button for a lot of people. But really, as I just started searching scripture and what does God really want for us as his children, realizing I don't have to just survive. Like he really wants us to thrive. He wants us to pursue him, pursue our callings, and that brings joy. We're talking about what brings joy. That brings
Yes.
joy, it brings purpose, it brings clarity. So we're going to dive into this conversation, but just in starting that out, just in my own life, this has really been a huge thing that has made such a difference. And I have to get up this morning, and this is the day that the Lord hath made. I'm excited to live this life.
Right, right. And yes, being like going to bed, being so excited because you can't wait to get up in the next
Mm,
morning. I know that you mentioned something about like purpose. I can't remember exactly what you said, but something about like you sometimes you had it and sometimes you didn't. And for
mm,
me, I feel like I mean, I really feel like I didn't understand this at all until I don't know, maybe I was 30 or 31, 32, like recently. Not,
mhm,
I mean, it's been a few years, but not something that I grew up with like this laser
yeah,
vision and this is where we're headed. And I think part of that is, you know, because I'm sure there's people listening that are like, oh man, I'm struggling with a vision or a purpose and the thing is, I think that's part of growing, you know, that's
exactly.
part of growth. And you don't realize, I think once you start having children and your life gets really, really busy with mundane, and
Mhm.
then you realize, I am so bored. And then you kind of wonder, what's my purpose with laundry and making food and dishes and wiping dirty bottoms? And, you know, just is there a purpose? And I think what you were saying is there truly is, because this is the vision or the purpose that God has given us. And obviously, we're going to talk about that more. But yes, it
Mhm.
is. when you can nail that down, it really brings so much beauty into our lives. It's such a
Yeah.
blessing.
And I think God had to give me clarity specifically in two areas that come to mind that I really struggled with. And it's not a conquered issue, but he has helped me grow in these. Is one, realizing that perfection is not the goal. I am a perfectionist.
Same.
And in those early days, I thought perfect is what I need to attain to. Well, God has shown me that is nothing, that is not something we will attain to this side of heaven. But that's not what we're talking about in this episode. Having a life that you love is not having a perfect life. None of us are going to have a perfect life. But it's really having this life of excellence, desiring the excellent way. And then another area that really the Lord had to just help me with is realizing that his will is always present. Um,
Mhm.
I think sometimes we think, oh, well, if I can get to this stage or this career position, or if I can get married or have children, then I will begin to fulfill my purpose.
Mhm.
Um, but the Lord has really taught me that, yes, you're right. We are walking the sanctification journey, and it is a journey. And
Mhm.
my purpose may kind of redirect as I follow God.
Right.
I'm in Australia now. I wasn't 5 years ago. My purpose looked a little different. But in following God day by day, remembering that at the present moment, there is a purpose that he wants me to fulfill. For example, I teach my kids. We're praying with them, especially the older ones, as we have some deeper conversations now. Hey, we are praying that as you follow the Lord, that he will help you figure out what he has for your life. And that is the kind of future out there. Where do you go to college? Who do you marry? What career do you pursue? But I also try to encourage them. But right now, in this very moment, God has a purpose for you. You're not just aimlessly wandering around until you figure out that big revelation. Today,
Right.
your purpose is to get up and to love your siblings, to love your parents, to honor and obey them, to do your schoolwork. But that's true for us too.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think in the Lord growing me in those two areas, it has really helped me in this idea of having a life that I love, of realizing that perfection is not the goal, excellence is, and pursuing that. And then also, just God has a purpose for me today. What is that? And I'm going to pursue that with excellence.
Right. Yeah. So you said perfection and excellence. I think it's something that people confuse because
Mm.
when you're pursuing excellence, it's like you're pursuing this ideal, and people think, well, isn't that perfection? And there's such a difference. It's a different mentality towards your life, because I was the same way. I was such a perfectionist, and early on, we go on this, I think, just in the matter of growing over the years, every area of your life is on this huge pendulum swing. And so early on, you're way over here, and then you think, oh my goodness, this is not working. So then you swing way over here, and then you realize, oh my goodness, this is really wrong. And then you land somewhere in the middle. And I think that is being able to be fine with that growth that
Mhm.
we have, but also realizing that, again, perfection, because that's what I was going to say, is early on it was perfection, 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 and I was very inflexible. And then I started homeschooling, and we went, woo, unschooling, or whatever, I don't even know what the word is, but who cares about, we don't need a schedule, we don't need this. And then I realized, actually, a schedule does help, but then not being married to it.
Yeah.
So just understanding the difference between there's excellence, and honestly, the Lord wants excellence for his people. And I think that is where Christians really mess up. We mess up because we are status quo, and we're not supposed to be. If
Mhm.
you look at all the heroes in the Bible, they weren't status quo. They were excellent. Speaking specifically, Daniel. I
Yeah.
mean, it literally says he was excellent. And I can't remember the exact verse or the quote, but I remember I've been so inspired by him. And also, just yesterday, we were talking about the Proverbs 31 women in Sunday school. And I was just reminded again, I think in what is that? Verse 30, where it talks about how she will excel. Above all these, you'll excel. And again, I am totally butchering these verses because I don't have them in front of me. But it just hit me yesterday again in Sunday school as I was teaching the girls. wow, there it is again. And if you
Mhm.
just look, if you just do a study on excellence, and so that, and this is going straight into the conversation that we want to have,
Mhm.
but the Bible really is our basis for that vision,
Exactly.
for the priorities. And I love what you said about obedience. That's so true. We talk about, oh, it is God's will for our life. And I wish I would have known this when I was 16, thinking about what I was going to do in college. There are many verses in the Bible that say this is God's will. So guess
Mhm.
what God's will is for your life? It is doing that, being thankful in all things. Children obeying your parents, for this is well pleasing to the Lord. And there's just so many things that are, this is the will of God. Okay, so I need to be doing that, and
Mhm.
that brings into light obedience. And we like to the verse that I know you and I are on the same page as far as the verse that we use about vision. Where are we supposed to get a vision? Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish, but we often stop right there. And the rest of that verse says, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. So we're talking about joy and happiness in life. Well, right there is the key.
Mhm.
Obedience is how we have joy. And I think so many times we struggle along, and man, we just have so much to do, and I got to get this done, and I got to get that done, and I got to get my laundry, and it's a struggle, and we set
Mhm.
God aside. We're too busy to have our devotions. We're too busy to be in the word. If you're not in the word, how are you going to know what you're supposed to obey?
Yeah.
And so I think it's very important to have a vision, but then we go to the word to find what that vision is.
Yes. Well, that is so true. And even thinking back about these words, the pursuit of perfection or the pursuit of excellence. When I pursue perfection, I am pursuing my expectation for myself, which as a perfectionist is extremely high and unattainable.
Yeah.
And I live frustrated and defeated. But when I pursue excellence, this is God's expectation of me. Now,
Yeah.
yes, he does have a high expectation, but it is an attainable expectation. And not only is that, but he gives us the Holy Spirit to come in and guide us and lead us and
Right.
help us through his power. So yeah, when we're talking about this obedience and the happiness that comes from that, I really just think there's a freedom there
Mm-hmm.
too. When I'm really kind of letting go from that bondage of me just slaving away, always trying to be more, always trying to be better, always trying to develop this life that is just the perfect thing. And then just trying to pursue Christ with absolute abandon,
Right.
and walk in his excellent way, like you said, in accordance with what his word tells us. This is something he wants for us. If he tells us that we can be happy if we keep the law, then that's something that he desires and has made possible for us.
Right. Yeah. And I think one thing is that he always calls us higher and holier, and it's just, it's this, and you think, well, I mean, isn't that striving? We're not supposed to strive. And there's met plenty of times in the Bible where it tells us that
Mhm.
we're supposed to strive. I mean, Paul was striving, and but we, like you said, we have that Holy Spirit inside of us to do the work. We have to have diligence. One thing that kind of goes along with that diligence thought is, I don't know if you're like this, but so many times it comes to mind that, oh man, I think life would be so much more enjoyable if we didn't have so much to do all the time. We just we've got so much going on, and if we just didn't have so much to do, I think it would be so much better. But what I've learned, and I'm sure you've learned this too, is that life is actually really enjoyable when you look and say, okay, I have all of this stuff to do. I'm going to give my heart and my soul to everything, whether it's work, whether it's play, whether it's rest.
Mhm.
And when you do that, because the Bible tells us that we're supposed to do everything, everything that we do, we're to do with all of our
Yes.
might. And we do it unto the Lord. And so it makes everything we do holy. It's just so exciting because it does, like we were saying earlier, it does make the dirty diapers and the dishes, and it makes all of that have a purpose because we're obeying God, putting our all in it. Do you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's
Yes.
just, this
No,
makes such a
exactly.
difference.
It does. And I say often perspective is everything. And I
Yes.
think when we have that vision aligned and we're really asking God, what have you created me for? I believe God created every person for a very specific reason. Nobody is an accident. God gives life for
Right.
a purpose.
Right.
And that means that, hey, I'm living and breathing today. There is something that God wants me to do. Right now, it's doing this podcast. I want to do it to the best of my ability. In a
Right.
little bit, it's going to be making my kids lunch, do it to the best of my ability. But I think that really helps give the purpose, give that foundation. And then we build from that. Okay, so we have this vision. Now, like you said, our lives are full. We live in a world that is just busy. It is. So how do you balance that? Because I think that a lot of women, I hear from them, they're like, okay, I do love my life. I feel like I'm getting this vision, but there's just so much pulling me in so many directions. And I think that really comes to, we've got to establish priorities. You cannot say yes to everything. You shouldn't say yes to everything.
Right.
Um, and that can be challenging. We'll talk a little bit about how to establish priorities. But when you say no to something, it allows you with a more full heart and strength to say yes to something that you really do feel like, okay, this is something that God wants me to pursue in this season.
Yeah, this is something where my life, this point right here has completely changed my life.
Mm.
When I realized what is important for our family, for me personally, and for our family, what is important, because that changes everything. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons it does is because when you live your life consistently by your top 5 or 6 priorities,
Mhm.
almost all of your decisions are made for you before you even come to them. I mean, talk about eliminating decision fatigue. That's something that we talk about already. But when you are, okay, God is first, and then down the line, your decisions are made. I mean, there's not very many things that come into life that
Mm.
aren't already decided because you know your priorities. Oh, we
Mhm.
got invited to be on the sports team. Well, that's not a priority for us. And
Yeah.
then what I feel like is the things that I'm praying about are like the no's are easy. No, 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 no. And then there are things that come in that are possibly, man, this aligns. And I think for me, that's where the confusion comes in, because it's like, this aligns with my priorities. This is a big yes. Okay, let's pull back. Let's look at our time frame. What's
Mhm.
going on? Is it a win for me, but also for our family? And then
Yes.
obviously praying about it. And the Lord promises to direct our steps when we're in obedience to him, and just seeing how he leads and guides that. It's just so amazing to see how God works, as far as, because you were talking about God has a purpose for you. But I remember 6-7 years ago, just wandering around my kitchen, like, what's my purpose? What am I doing? I mean, I know I'm cleaning the floors and I know I'm taking care of my family, but I've always had a desire to do more. I feel like I should be starting a business. Like, I want to be an entrepreneur. What can I do? And so that drive has kind of always been there, but I didn't know what to
Mhm.
do. Well, I wish I would have known back then, like we already said, obey. The Lord directs your steps in his time. And I remember somebody telling me, because back then I was trying to build a community on Instagram, and I remember being frustrated because I had a toddler, and she probably actually was maybe 3 or 4, so they were a little bit more, they know what's going on a little bit more. And I was
Mhm.
just on my phone, trying to build this community, and then getting frustrated because I'm like, I shouldn't be on my phone. Okay, I'm not going to be on my phone. But when am I going to do this? There's not time. Well, I remember talking to a friend, and she said, God will show you.
Mhm.
And it was just, I mean, we know that. I knew that, but I just needed to be reminded, the Lord, he directs our steps when we are walking with him. And back then, I was not walking with him like I should have been. And again, this was part of the growing process. I didn't realize that. But when I realized, okay, number one priority, it's walking with the Lord. And
Yes.
I just can't believe when I made that my priority, my top priority, I can't believe how he has directed my steps. It's been amazing. So I would definitely,
Mhm.
just as an encouragement to people who are maybe thinking, man, I know there's this purpose out there for me somewhere. I know just realizing, do what you're supposed to do right now. Right
Yeah.
now, I'm a wife and a mom. Right now, I have to make dinner and wash the dishes, and I have
Mm.
to change the diapers, and I have to do the laundry, and not have to, get to. I get to
Yes.
do all these things. All of these things are blessings, because if I didn't have to do all those things, that means I wouldn't have a husband and I wouldn't have a daughter.
Mhm.
And so just realizing this is my purpose right now, and there might be a bigger purpose, and if there is, he is going to direct your steps and show you, but do your purpose now, right now.
Yes. Well, our pastor in the States would always say that when God is in his rightful place in your life, everything else will be in its rightful place. And that
Mhm.
is so true. What is your first priority? That one shouldn't be hard. It's your relationship with the Lord. If you're married, your marriage is a priority. If you
Good.
have children, your motherhood is a priority. Those are kind of the three that are easy to do. Then from there, everybody's life's going to look different. Both of us are in ministry. Ministry is a priority.
Mhm.
Um, and then other things kind of come. But I think that's so good is establishing those things, remembering these are areas that I want to invest myself in, that I want to put my time in, because these are those purposes that God gave me. And then, like you were saying too, this is something that I think it's great to revisit from time to time. Bring that,
Mhm.
write your priorities, write those 5 or 6, bring that to the Lord in prayer. Hey, does anything need to change? Does anything out of whack? Do I need to put more time in here? Because as seasons change, those priorities can change a little bit. One day I'm going to be a mom of 5 teenagers and not 5 little kids. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have a priority of motherhood, but it's going to look different in that season than it does now. So I think sometimes different seasons do bring different priorities. So I think that's always something that we bring before the Lord, asking him, like you said, for that clarity of vision here. What is a priority? But then once we get that, make sure that those things are priority. Hey, if my marriage is a priority to me, then in the evenings when my kids go to bed, I can't stay up and watch a show till 10 o'clock at night because okay, maybe my husband's sitting beside me, but we haven't invested in our marriage. And I'm using that example because that was a real thing. When we started our marriage, we thought, oh, we're spending time together. But we realized this is quantity. This is not quality. We really
Right.
needed to do things to invest in our marriage. But again, that all came back to when I started understanding these priorities. Wow, if my marriage is priority to me, then I need to invest in that. And like you say, God will show you things to tweak, things to change, what that needs to look like. But I love that you said that this helps your decision making, because I think so many times we can just be like, I'm pulled in so many different directions. I have so many hats, spinning so many plates. How do I manage it all? How do I keep my head above water? Establishing these priorities. You can't have 10, you can't have 20.
Right.
Um, Establishing those few priorities really helps, again, get that intentionality, that laser focus. This is what I need to pursue in my life.
Yes, that laser focus, the laser vision is something that's been huge for me, just like what you were saying about marriage. The same kind of thing so when you have these priorities set, it helps you order your day in
Mm-hmm.
such a way that is according to your priorities. So this last school year, I just realized all of a sudden how schooling, educating my daughter just became really, really important to me in the last year. And it always was important. But then, especially with everything that's going on in our world, I realized I can we can really have an excellent education, not just, oh, we'll do a little bit of math and a little bit of English and, just reading, writing, arithmetic, and just the basics. No, that's not what I am called to as a Christian mother. And that really, really convicted me. Well, guess what? I like to be on my phone in the morning, checking this and checking that, answering an email, answering a text. And that was spreading me thin.
Mm-hmm.
But when I realized school, education, this is something under my motherhood category that I am going to be all in. We want excellence here. And so what happened was the phone was easy to put away.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I have these priorities. So obviously, I'm going to spend time with the Lord in the morning. Well, guess what? If my phone's out or if I'm doing other things or whatever, that doesn't happen. But if it's my priority, it's going to happen. And then comes maybe my husband's leaving. He's usually leaving before my devotions. But hey, is there anything you want me to do today? That goes on top of my list for the day. And then we move into early morning school, and then breakfast and family devotions and school again and more school. And my phone is not a distraction because I have that laser vision on these priorities. And it just makes the biggest difference. It's like when you have your eye set on this higher vision for your life, then the little distractions, they just fall away. And one of the things I always think about, especially when it comes to a phone, because I know in our day and age, the phone is a massive distraction for many, many moms. And one thing I always love to think about and repeat to myself is make your life so enjoyable and so full of good things that you don't have time for your phone. And honestly, you can be intentional with your phone. You can set, okay, a timer, 10 minutes. I'm taking 10 minutes and I'm going to look at my friends really quick on Instagram or Facebook or whatever your thing is, and 10 minutes. And then you just took something that wears you down and frustrates you and you get really angry at yourself, and you just made it really intentional. So that's just something that has really, really helped me.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you brought up the phone thing, and specifically talking about school, because that is something that I really found once we moved here, because the time zone changed. You all end your day as I start mine, which means you lived your day while I was sleeping. So when I wake up, all the messages, all the updates, all the social media is just pinging because I've missed a day. And that was really a struggle for me because my day starts quick. I mean, I am straight into mothering and all those things, like you said, time with the Lord. And then we just right into school. So when I found myself very drawn between any little pocket of time, the eggs are cooking, I'm stirring and I'm trying to catch up. And I'm trying to get the kids started with their work, but I'm also trying to catch up. My brain was so pulled in so many directions that one, I couldn't focus and give my whole attention to anything, but I also found myself being very short, very snappy with my kids. And now that, I mean, it's really embarrassing and convicting to say that, but like, can't you just solve your own math problem? I'm checking social media. Like, honestly, that's how I felt. And I realized, wow, this is not in alignment with my priority or my vision for my life. And so I have had to do what we're going to talk about, habits. I've had to make some habits in my life that help reflect those priorities. I check my phone really quick for the main things, email and a few friends that are extremely important to me in the morning. Then it's gone. I put it away. I don't even keep it with me until the afternoon. Now the afternoon, and I get, we live in a very connected world. Most people can't just ditch the phone. There are things that people need. I want to stay in touch with family. I want to stay in touch with friends. I don't want to completely dismiss that. But like you said, okay, there's a little window in the afternoon that I catch up on those things, which is great because by that time, all of you all are asleep. So even if I message, it's not like I'm committing to these conversations or anything.
Right.
And then usually in the evening, I do another really quick whatever, and then I plug my phone in a different room. It's been so good for a lot of my priorities. Time with the Lord, time with my husband, time with my children, my reading life. That phone has a bedtime, okay? It goes in another room at a certain time. And people that know me are getting, like my church people, they know, hey, if I text Brettnay after 9 p.m., she won't respond until the next morning. It's been good. Establishing those habits to reflect my priorities has helped me. And now in the morning, when we go down and we're starting school, I'm not pulled in so many directions. I'm there, I'm present, like you said, because motherhood with education falling under that is a huge priority to me. I want to do it well.
Yeah. And being present, that is something specifically that brings so much joy. We talk about it all the time. Oh, I want to be present. I want to be present. Well, how you be present is put all the distractions aside. And
Mhm.
while you were talking, I was just thinking that verse that we referred to, whatsoever thy hand findeth to do it with all thy might. If you're distracted trying to do school or trying to do dinner or whatever it is that you're doing, you are not doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing with all your might. So could we call that disobedience? That just entered my mind. The Lord put that in my mind, and I thought, wow, okay, that's convicting.
Well, the kids and I are actually learning this little poem right now too. And the end of it, we're still learning it. So I think it says, all that you do, do with your might. Things done by halves are not done right. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to give half of
Yeah.
myself to cooking breakfast and half of, probably like a fourth of myself to that, a fourth of myself to engaging in this conversation with a child, a fourth of myself to checking social media. And it's not done right. None of it was done right.
Life is so much enjoyable when you do it the Lord's way. It just is. When you give yourself, all of yourself, to the task at hand, that's where joy comes. At
Mhm.
least that's what I found in my life.
Absolutely, for sure. And I think, as we kind of transition to talking about habits, um, that really is helpful because, again, we've talked about this vision, we've talked about these priorities, but I'm a nitty gritty person. What does that practically look like in my life? I've got my 5 or 6 priorities, but how do I live those out in an excellent way? We've talked about phones, and I think that's a huge issue in our world today. That is something that not only do we need to figure out, but I think it's essential that we model that for a coming generation who's going to have even more technology struggles. But I have a friend who told me recently, she said, I've started asking myself, what will tomorrow's me thank today's me for? And she's like,
Mm,
that's really helped me do put some habits in place. And I know you are great at talking about habits and practical ways to make that a part of your life. But you say, hey, I want this to be a priority. I want to spend more one-on-one time with my kids. What does that look like? How do we need to make that happen? Life is busy. I get that. So for us, what does that look like? Well, one night a week, we have made a habit of 30 minutes after we put all the other kids to bed, we stay up with one child. And that's not going to be any type of TV, nothing. We are talking, we are playing a game. We let them pick as long as it's not
mhm,
TV. But that's just been a little habit that we've put into our weekly rhythm now to help me attain that priority.
mhm. Yeah, I like what you said, that quote, what will tomorrow's me thank today's me for? And I was thinking something similar to that, I don't know, a week or so ago. I mean, it wasn't that exact quote, or maybe it was. I can't remember. I don't remember if you've even told me about it. But I was thinking, it's really funny, like this like real fine line that we have to walk, because we're sitting here talking about how a well-lived life is real, and one that's so enjoyable is one that is learning how to live in the present moment. And
Yes.
then we're saying, but we need to be planning ahead and preparing ahead for tomorrow. But the thing is, that is life. So the present moment is preparing ahead for tomorrow. Now, it's not, I can't wait till my kids are 14. It's not that. It's tomorrow, I'm going to be really thankful if I clean up this kitchen right now. Even though I don't feel like it, just put in that little bit of elbow grease, diligence, just get it done, because tomorrow I'm going to be thankful for that. But you can live in the present preparing for tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? I just thought it was funny because I was thinking, that's really funny because we're talking about living in the present, and enjoying every moment. But while we do that, we've got to prepare.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and I think even that has helped me. If we're talking about living a life you love, has that looked practically in my life? I know you talk about, hey, if it takes less than 5 or 10 minutes, just do it. Don't go write it on my to-do list and let it sit there all week. Just do it. Little things like that. For me to be present in my life, I do have to have some habits in place. We have to have some rhythms in place. We've talked about things, one load of laundry every day. Trying to stay on top of, hey, what meat do I need to pull out for tomorrow? Little things like that. This may seem so insignificant, but I have had to get some of that, like we said, laser vision to do a little bit of prep ahead thinking so that I have the freedom to enjoy the present. Because if in my brain I'm thinking, clean the microwave, clean the microwave, clean the microwave. Oh man, I haven't done laundry in 3 days. I'm not going to be present in the evening when
Right.
I sit down with my husband and we go to, whatever. Or if I'm thinking, hey, should I take a walk with my kids this afternoon? Oh goodness. No, I can't because I haven't cleaned the bathroom in a month.
Yeah.
And so there is that balance there. But I found for me, a little bit of that just prep ahead, staying on top of things allows me the freedom to be present.
Right. It's funny because when you first brought up this topic, one of the first things that came to mind was, what is the opposite
Mm,
of a life I love? What is a life that I really dislike? What is a life that is not enjoyable at all? What really makes me grumpy? And so several things just came to mind. So obviously one we mentioned already is wasting time on the phone, undisciplined children,
mm,
a home that's chaos, feeling nasty after you eat a bunch of junk food,
yeah.
um, getting up in the morning, getting up really late, past the alarm clock or whatever, and missing my quiet time alone with the Lord, not planning ahead for dinner, you mentioned, working, we kind of mentioned this too, but working outside of designated work times because I get really irritated when people interrupt. That's checking my email, answering a message during school. No, there's a designated work time for that. So that makes me irritated at myself. Running late drives me crazy. Gaining a bunch of weight, that's not fun. So thinking of these, and I know what they call these, what's the word that they call these, pain points. You have
Mm,
these pain
yeah.
points in your life. And what we want to do is look at your life and say, okay, you don't have to do 14 habits all at once. What is
Mhm.
one thing that is driving you completely insane right now in your life? Make that habit. Make a habit for that one thing. And
Yeah.
that is, again, going back to that term growth, that is growth. That's how you have a loved life, is make a habit for that pain point. And then when you get that down, make a habit for the next pain point. And I
Mhm.
think just being able to realize these kids are really driving me nuts. What's the issue? Okay, here's the issue. I need to be
Mhm.
consistent in disciplining.
Yeah.
That will eliminate a lot of problems. So just, you mentioned food. Oh my goodness, it's the worst coming to 4 p.m. and realizing, oh, I didn't take food out of the
The
freezer.
days my kids say, "What's for dinner?" And I stand there and I'm like, "That's a great question."
Good question. I know, I know. And then you also hit on the point of the 5-10 minute thing. It's so funny because our mind, almost everything, I've noticed this in life, almost every single thing in life, our brain makes it 50 times harder than it
Mhm.
actually is. For example, cleaning bathrooms. I I laugh at this when I realize, we talked about this before, but breaking down all of our house responsibilities into like 2-minute
Mm,
chores.
yeah.
And when I did that several years ago, I realized, oh, cleaning the bathroom actually isn't that bad because it really takes 2 minutes to clean a toilet. It
Yes.
takes 2 minutes to wipe out a sink. It just,
You
and
know, I think most, not all, but most home things, what it requires of us is actually so much less than what our
yeah,
brain thinks
yes.
it requires.
But then we put it off and put it off and put it off. And like you said, it weighs down on us mentally. And if we can just get it done. And
Yeah.
another thing that has been life changing for me is the 15-minute, um for me it's the 15-minute clean, but we
Mhm.
do a lot of things for 15 minutes, like whether it's writing or, I don't know, fill in the blank, practicing the piano. That's something that I've started again. Working out. I think, look, I can do weights. Doing weightlifting is something that I've been wanting to add in. And I have learned that 15 minutes a day or 10 minutes a day, you have 10 minutes.
Mhm.
If you want to add something to your life, you have 10 minutes. If it's a priority, you will make 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we have 10 minutes, and 10 minutes every single day adds up to incredible, fill in the blank, whatever it is. It adds up to
Mhm.
learning a language. or writing a book or learning the piano. There's just so many things. And that 15 minutes is so impactful. One thing that was driving me crazy was not having a house clean. You know, I'd clean the kitchen after dinner, but I wasn't wiping off the top of the fridge and underneath the beds and just places where you don't think, if it's not on your radar, you know, out of sight, out of mind. So you don't do it. And it really started bugging me, you know, the ceiling fans. I thought, man, this is so embarrassing. People come over and they happen to look up. That's really embarrassing. Or the cobwebs hanging down in the corners, you know.
Mm.
And 15 minutes a day, and our home is clean. It's
Yeah.
not, you know, it's not a museum, but it's clean. It's nice to live in. So it's just made such an impact. It really does. I mean, professional people who write books about productivity and stuff like that, they're always talking about this, you know, doing something that's 15 minutes every single day. It just adds up to, just think if you did something for 15 minutes a day for your entire life, what you could accomplish.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
actually have a quote here. So, a great book that I have loved when it comes to priorities and habits and all of that is Time Saving Mom by Crystal Paine, also known as Money Saving Mom. But she says, I've learned over the years that it's often these seemingly boring or simplistic practices done repeatedly that transform the trajectory of our lives. And that is so true. And I think you and I can both say it's true because we've personally experienced it.
Yes. That quote is so good. It reminds me of James Clear. I wrote a Instagram post ages and ages ago, and I quoted him saying something similar to that. But basically, the point of what he was saying is we have to get really used to the boring and the mundane in life. And if you want to, I don't know, he didn't use the word enjoy, but basically, if you want to accomplish anything in life, you have to get really, really good at the mundane and the boring. And I thought, wow. And the 15 minutes of cleaning every single day is boring. 15 minutes of practicing the piano every day is boring. I mean, we see this with our children as far as learning. We're putting the time in every single day, and it's incredible what they learn just doing it diligently, showing up every single day. There's one of my favorite verses when it comes to talking about productivity is Proverbs 13:9. You probably know this one. It says, the desire accomplished is sweet to the soul. I love that verse. So just thinking through, what do I desire for my day? What do I desire for my week, my month, my year? What do I desire for my life?
Yeah.
When you accomplish that excellence that we were talking about, it is very sweet. It brings joy. It makes a life of love.
It does. You know, and I think we've talked about this just in our busy world, our distracted world. How can you have a life you love? I think in another sense, really, it's good to simplify. And sometimes we almost need to just give ourselves the permission to do so. I am the person that struggles to say no to anything. Everything's like, I mean, it depends on what it is. Like if it was the sports team, that's an easy no. I'm not a sports girl. But there are so many good things that I think, oh, I would love to do that. Or, you know, I have all these ideas. Oh, I could do this, I could do that. But I like you said, this is so true. Having those priorities in place helps me. But even just in simplifying our life, really probably maybe 2 years ago, it was because I was having my 5th baby, and I thought, I have got to simplify because I want to love this season. I was going to have number 5. I wanted to fully embrace that for all it was. I didn't want to feel so rushed and stretched thin in a season where I knew I was going to be extra vulnerable, like maybe I had with some of my earlier babies. So I had to really embrace a season of slow in my life. But I think it's okay to simplify, you know, keep your priorities, make sure that you are touching on those, that you are accomplishing those. But it is okay to simplify and to create margin. Bilbo Baggins said that it is no bad thing to celebrate a simple life. And, you know, we even see this movement now in our world today where people, like you said, that pendulum, you know, we're swinging all the way to, oh, let's get off the grid or homesteading. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with pursuing that lifestyle, but people are seeing, I can't keep up with this pace. This is not giving me a life that I love. Something needs to change. So I think it's important that we remember what truly matters, and give ourselves space to breathe. You said earlier, it was so good that you wanted to do with all of your might, whether that was work with all of your might, whether that was play with all of your might, whether that was rest with all of your might. And you said play and rest, and I'm glad you did, because I think sometimes, especially in my type A brain, I think, no, work, 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 work. All the time it's
Right.
work. But God created us for rest. He
Right.
created us for play and enjoyment. And we need to have the margin that we can do that for our spiritual well-being, our emotional well-being, our physical well-being.
Right. Yeah, that's so good. I have a little mantra that I have been telling myself, and it's simplify, strengthen, shine. Because
Mhm.
when you simplify, you figure out, like, you see your pain points, you figure out, okay, what's the issue here, and then simplify. That's basically what you're doing. So let's say your laundry is chaos. Okay, that's my pain point. I'm going to simplify my laundry system. What do I need to do? Okay, I'm going to do one load of laundry a day, wash, dry, put away every single day. That simplified it. And then I'm going to strengthen that habit. So I created this habit. I'm going to strengthen that every single day. And what happens is, once you get that strengthened, your life begins to shine and you realize, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I never have laundry around. There's never laundry hanging out in the bathroom. There's never, the towels are kept up with, the bedding is kept up with. And so when you simplify your life into systems for just the main things, food, laundry, and cleaning, those are the three big things for me. Can you think of another one? I feel like those are the three main things. And
I think, yeah, for homemakers, yes.
when you fly by the seat of your pants, typically you're living in a dirty house, your laundry is never done, and you never know what's for dinner. And that's not really a fun place to live, personally. I
Mhm.
know there's some people who fly by the seat of their pants and they're fine, but personally for me, I am not fine. I'm very stressed when life is chaos like that, and I don't want to live a chaotic life. So when I can take the laundry or the food or whatever, simplify, this is what we're going to do. In that case, I'm simplifying my home, my
Mhm.
home management system, basically. These are the three things that are priorities to me in my home. Simplify that, strengthen those habits, and then your home shines because
Yeah.
it's on this natural rhythm that as long as you show up to do the thing that day, it's going. And
Mhm.
it's a blessing to your family as well.
It is, for sure. And, I think it's really good to mention as we talk about margin and even keeping a right mindset, kind of wrapping up this idea, is we've talked about being laser focused and intentional on having those priorities and letting that determine our yeses and our nos and our decisions and forming these habits. And I think that's also good. I think that is essential, at least I've found in my own life. But life can be unpredictable. And, I have found that living this way, having these priorities, having these habits, having some structure to my life
Mhm.
does not inhibit me from the unexpected.
Right.
It opens me up more to embrace that.
Yes.
God redirects our days sometimes. We wake up and think, this is my list. This is what it's going to look like. This is my flow because it's a Tuesday and this is what I do on Tuesdays. But sometimes you get that call from a friend who needs to talk, or you get, just the random, we have a sweet elderly neighbor lady who just pops up and at random times and loves to chat. And, I want to be able to say, I have space. I have time. Maybe it's a kid.
Right.
Maybe they're going through something that wasn't written in today's agenda that they were going to have friendship troubles. Um, but allowing the margin for the Holy Spirit to redirect who, and remembering that is not taking me away from my priorities, because if God is my first priority, if he chooses to redirect my day, then whatever the redirection is, that became my priority. Even
Right.
if it wasn't pre-thought out or on my list or something that I thought would happen. Um, but again, coming back to thinking through this and implementing this into my life gives me that freedom to be flexible when needed. Now, I can't just do that every single day. But when the Holy Spirit redirects, I found that it's easier to say, okay, yes,
Right.
um, I can obey.
Yes, yes. It's funny because a couple weeks ago I was listening to something and she was talking about, I can't even remember the exact words that she said, but it fits here so well. She said basically we put the structure into our life not for when
Mhm.
our life is running smoothly, but for when our life is chaos.
Yes.
Because that keeps our home running when life is crazy, or
Mhm.
when things come up, or when the friend needs a meal or whatever. My life can still run relatively smoothly. And part of this, I will add, part of this is bringing your children, if they're older, bringing your children in to helping you run the home.
Mhm.
Because I know some people look down on that, but I truly think that this is huge. The Bible tells us
Yeah.
in Titus 2 that elder women are supposed to teach younger women. This is very good for us moms, especially to be teaching our daughters, even our sons, but how to run a home. And the thing
Mhm.
is, when life is chaos, I mean, this just happened over the weekend. We had company. There's a lot going on, and my daughter handled everything. She took care of a whole bunch of things for me. And if I had to do all of that myself, I would have been drowning. But when I brought my daughter in and said, "Hey, look, we got this going on. I'm going to really need you to pick up the slack here. I need help." Even asking your husband, "Hey, could you help me with this?" Usually, I mean, my husband's not over here cleaning the house, but he is willing. Like if we're just, oh, we got a lot going on, he's willing to vacuum the floors. Or sometimes he just does it. Even I don't even have to ask him. He'll notice, oh, she's really busy, and I'll just do it. And what a blessing that is.
Mhm.
But bringing others in, the more people you have in your home, the more things you have to do as far as keeping the house clean. I mean, if you've got 5 children, you have 7 with parents, pairs of
Yeah.
clothes and 7 dishes and all of that. Well, of course it's going to be overwhelming when that's all on you. And of course, when somebody needs a meal, oh my goodness, I can't. I'm just not in a place where I can do that right now. But when you take some initiative and
Mhm.
simplify your life, you, like you were saying, you do have that ability to shine. Simplify and then strengthen and then shine.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you made that mention about bringing your kids in because, I think it's great to train them and to teach them these things. Now, I'm all for preserving childhood and letting them be free and run and have fun, but I am raising a future adult, and it
Right.
will not serve them well if they don't ever have to help or do a chore or anything until they're 18 and on their own. Hopefully, they're not on their own at 18, but you know what I mean when they're
Yeah.
entering into adulthood. And some of these things in life are very new for me. Like you said, it was in my 30s that I'm kind of overhauling some things. I wasn't necessarily trained in this,
Right.
um, which means I've had to start from the absolute bottom and try to figure out, well, what am I doing? What's working? And I get that, especially my girls, they're all going to have different families and marriages and children and responsibilities and all of that. But I'm hoping that they won't have to start from the very bottom, that they'll be a little
Yeah.
further up the rung and have a little better understanding of, okay, well, yeah, mom had her priorities and this is what it looked like. And, they just grew up with joining in on some of that and seeing, hey, we're in a big family and this is how we made it work. And um, so I just hope that that sets them up for success one day. That I've done a little bit of that legwork in different areas of life. I mean, I think women's health is another one, and this is a whole different topic. I know you and I could chat about this one. I
Don't
didn't
bring
know
that
much.
one up right now.
This is a terrible
Oh,
time, right? We're supposed to be wrapping up, but just in so many areas of life, especially I have 4 daughters, you have a daughter. I think I want to put them at a further starting point and help them. And yeah, I think it's good for them. I think it's good for them now, and I think it will serve them in the future. But yes, just having this mindset, remembering that perspective is really everything, and just thinking through these things, praying through these things with the Lord. If you're thinking, well, I don't know what my priorities should be, or I don't know what habits to do, talk to the Lord, talk to your husband, get some insight from him, get a different perspective from him. Um, But and I'm a pen and paper kind of girl, so it was good for
Mhm.
me to sit down with a pen and paper and just write some of this out, figure this out, and then, like you said, step by step, implementing these things into my life. Is my life perfect? No. Do I always strive for excellence? No. But I do feel like I am doing my best to pursue Christ when I get off course to correct, and I can truly say that I am living a life that I love.
Yes, yes. I think a mindset that has really helped me when pursuing excellence is not to be concerned about my entire life, but
Mm,
to be concerned about today. I only know that I have today. I only know that I have this moment right now. So I can make that count. And it changes when it changes when you have a bad day, because when you have a bad day, you have a different capacity, a different level of
mm,
capacity. So when you have a bad day, what can you do to make your bad day a win? Maybe you have morning sickness, or you're not feeling well, and my win for that day is to just do one load of laundry. If I can just do one load of laundry, I did what I actually excelled today because I'm sick and that's all I could handle. So that might be all the strength, I have the strength to do. So
mhm.
that's awesome if you do that. I just made today count. And that's the mindset that I like to have. I want to make today count because I'm never going
Yes.
to get today back. And if I make today count every single day of my todays, then that's going to build a life that I
Mhm.
absolutely love. So just making every moment count. It's going to end up being a beautiful and enjoyable life, and one that pleases the Lord, and obviously going in the strength of Him, building a life of excellence that that He really builds for us.